welcome everyone to this statewide CWC session. As you probably all know, we have a new endeavor that's begun, which is to create an ekphrastic book, which I can never pronounce, close. And Robin will talk about what that means and so on. But as you know, we solicited art in an art contest from across the state. We had over 250 pieces of art submitted. A famous artist and our wonderful editor served as judges. Les Bernstein served as judges for those and chose 15 pieces of work. And in fact, in the last 30, they chose several more and expanded it because they were so good. And I will tell you just privately, if you will, we have some in reserve that will be shown in other ways or not used in the poetry prose part of this process for the book, but we do have a number of other artists who will be recognized in the future. So I hope this was an interesting event to do art for the club. I know some people said we're a writers club, why are we doing art? To me, we're just creative folks and we should encourage all kinds of creativity. But this is especially an interesting way of pairing art with writing, and it has a long tradition. It's common in Japan. And so I'm going to let Robin take over. I better do my share, huh? Share. What do I want to do? Share all. Multiple, yeah, there we are. Oops, sorry. Yeah, stop sharing, Roger. Uh-oh. Now what have I done?
Did you want to make Robin able to share? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Is she a co-host?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, then she can share. She can share.
So I'm gonna mute myself, but I will follow the chat. Judy, if you want to do the same for me, because Judy's very good at that, we can prompt Robin with questions. But if you have a question, put your hand, the digital hand up. Don't raise your hand. Do the participant hand at the bottom, and let's hold some of our questions off until Robin asks us for questions. And go ahead, Robin.
All righty, thank you. And thank you for being here today. And I hope, and for, foregoing the Super Bowl or Super Bowl pre-show or whatever's going on today. It's all above my head, but I appreciate you spending your time today to be with us and learn a little bit about ekphrastic writing. I'm going to share my screen because most of my information is via a PowerPoint presentation, which I'll be talking about. So let me see if I can get that organized here. All right, here we go. So let me just see if I can, yes, I'm screen sharing. And I want to do this in slideshow. All righty. Can everyone see that okay? All right, thanks. All right, I'm going to be talking to you today about ekphrastic writing, and specifically the way I phrased it is how to enter a painting and make it speak. Ekphrastic simply means writing to art. Ekphrasis, it's a Greek word, writing to art. But I think that it's an incredibly interesting concept. I do it with poetry, but you don't have to do it with poetry. You can do it with any kind of writing. I've written a book of poems called The Clandestine Life of Paintings in Poems, which is all ekphrastic writing, and I love it. I think that paintings and other forms of art have a lot to say. They can tell stories, stories that are obvious. Just look at the art, and obviously the artist was trying to tell you something, and that's what the painting is about. But sometimes there are things in the painting that are not so obvious. And those are things sometimes that the artist meant, but there are other things in it that the artist may not have meant, that you as a literary artist can glean from the painting or the sculpture or the theater piece, whatever you're writing to or inspired by, that that may be different than what was actually intended. Any kind of art that can spark your imagination and inspire a new thought, um, or that can inspire a new thought that's never occurred to anyone else before, can be a basis for an ekphrastic piece. Um, as I said, I write poetry, but you can do any kind of writing: fiction, regular poetry, rhyming poetry, prose poetry. As you probably know, for the CWC Vision and Verse Challenge, you have to have poetry or prose fiction that's 300 words or less. So we're basically talking about short form writing. Um, so, but as you'll see, while I write poetry, a lot of my poems are sort of like little mini stories. So when you're looking at a painting, you can also find within the painting sort of small stories that you can write about it. So let me just go on here. So how do you enter a painting and make it speak? Well, one way is to have a conversation between you and the piece of art. You can first ask yourself, what is the piece of art trying to say as a whole? If it's a portrait, there will be people in the work. Does the subject or one of the subjects in the painting capture your attention? It may be a group of people or a couple. You don't have to write about everyone in the painting. You can just pick one person in the painting and tell their story, or what you think is their story. You can make up the story. It doesn't have to be something that is necessarily played out in the painting. We're talking about a painting. It could also be an animal in the painting, if we're speaking about paintings. It could be a dog curled up at his master's feet. You could tell a story or write a poem from a point of view of a cow in the field, the bird in the sky, or on a branch. You could also tell the story from the point of view of an inanimate object. You could have a story, if you're looking at a more modern painting, where a refrigerator is having a conversation with a microwave. So don't be constrained by even necessarily the main topic of what's going on in the painting, because your art is not meant to necessarily mimic the painting or the work of art. It's meant to be inspired by that. So I just want to show you an example of one of my favorites and a very famous group painting. So this is Bacchus or Dionysus and Ariadne by Titian. This, just so you know, this particular painting, and I'm going to try to enlarge it a little if I can for you, is it's very famous. It's I don't know a lot about Greek mythology and Greek history, but not even knowing that, I can look at this painting and see just about 5 or 6 different points of view I could write a story from. For instance, you have the 2 main characters. Here you have Bacchus or Dionysus, and here you have Ariadne. And clearly there's some action going on here. Now, usually if you have a historical painting like this, you want to do research, find out about the artist, find out about the painting itself, find out about the mythology behind it, if it's a mythological story, and then formulate your story out of that. But there are so many interesting other things going on in this painting. Here's a little fawn, half man, half goat. You could tell the story from his point of view. Here you have a woman in the background. I think that's with a mirror. So you could tell the story from her point of view. There are many different characters here, and I'm particularly intrigued by these two leopards here. They're looking at each other, and the one whose face you can really see has a very interesting expression. So you have to be wondering, what is this one leopard saying to the other leopard? I mean, there's definitely a joke that could be made there. So I'm just trying to give you some idea of the different points of view you could take in a painting. And I don't even ask me what's going on with this guy, because I have no clue. But you can take it from any angle you want. That's the point. And as I was saying, especially with historical paintings, but even with modern paintings, one of the best ways to enter the painting and find out about it and get a handle on what you may want to write about it is to research the artist and research the art, to find out the historical details, what period it was written in, what was going on in the period, if it was wartime, if it was a time of great famine. You may not end up using all those period details in your story or poem, but the research will likely inform it in subtle ways. It might inform it in the style you choose to write your story or poem in, the theme, the tone. You'll see some examples of this as I start getting into some of the things I've written. But you'll just be amazed at you might spend hours reading about the art and the artist before you put anything down on paper. You don't have to, but I think that's half the fun of doing ekphrastic writing, is that you do get to learn something about the art. If you're not already an art lover, doing ekphrastic art is a great way, or poetry or writing is a great way to learn about art and artists of all genres. And that leads me to the fact that, as you can see from our CWC challenge, any kind of art is essentially ripe for ekphrastic writing. It doesn't matter if it's landscape or abstract or portrait, romantic, impressionist, even surreal, and things like sculpture. I'll show you a poem later that I wrote to a sculpture. So all kinds of art can be written to. Even music, theater, and dance can be pieces written to those things, can be considered ekphrastic. And if you're interested later, you can shoot me an email and I can send you even more examples of some very famous writers who have written to, to some very famous paintings, people like Rilke and Anne Carson and oh goodness, I was trying to think of him. There's another one. Anyway, I have a whole cache of famous poets and writers who have done ekphrastic. So if you're interested in that, I can give you more background in the history of it. But today, we wanted our focus to be more on the nuts and bolts of it. So, whoops, and I popped out of my PowerPoint. So today I'm going to give you more examples of ekphrastic writing. And one place you could look is, I have a blog called Why I Love Ekphrastic Poetry, Why I Love Writing Ekphrastic Poetry. And some of you are familiar with Marlene Cullen's blog, The Right Spot. And the article in there gives a lot of examples of why I love doing ekphrastic poetry and how I do it. And I'm going to give you some of those examples today. There are also some in my book, which I shamelessly show you over here on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, The Clandestine Life of Paintings and Poems. But here's the first one I'm going to talk to you about, because I'm going to start with some very simple ones. and just kind of go through how I approach ekphrastic writing. This is a watercolor painting by a friend of mine and here in Sonoma County. Her name is Marian Stern, and she does these brilliant watercolors. And she has this one, which is called Yellow Moon. And so I wrote a short poem to this called Yellow Moon. And the way let me see if I can just find this. Okay. So she titled the painting Yellow Moon, spelled this way, white yellow. And so my poem is also titled that. So obviously the moon is the central figure in this painting. And the moon is so large and vivid, it demands your attention. And I felt it demanded that I make him the central character in my poem. So that's what I did. However, it's sort of a persona poem, but halfway the persona shifts. So kind of pay attention to that, because it's told starting out point of view of the moon, but then the persona shift. The glowing saffron globe pulls itself into the night sky and seems to float in the wetland marsh, reflecting, observing its gleaming face in the salty water, as if to say, "See, I am not made of green cheese. Behold me with wonder. I light the sky. I light the land. Marsh grasses cower before me. I pull the tides like stretching rubber bands, leaving crabs to flounder and unwary boats askew. But the sea grasses and marsh creatures know that as the braggart rises, his reflection will shrink along with his delusions of grandeur." So the bragging moon had his say, of course, but then he had to be brought back down to earth. So the last stanza is written from the point of view of the surrounding plants and animals that are kind of tired of listening to this bragging moon go on about how great he is, and letting us know that they are not fooled by him. So I just thought that was kind of a cute way to do it, is to point it out from the point of view of the marsh grasses and marsh creatures. So that's where we went with Yellow Moon. But see, there's something so simple. I mean, it's a simple painting, but it's lovely. But something like that, if it just sparks, it can spark something in you. Here's another one that's, I feel, is similar. It's a simple little painting, another watercolor done by a Napa County artist whose name is Nancy Gates. And it's simply a leaf. It's captured, not laying on the ground, not laying in a bed of leaves, just, it seemed to me it was just fluttering in the air. So rather than write about how it looks, it evoked a certain emotion in me, which obviously art sometimes does. It can evoke a strong emotion. And so the name of my poem relative to this little watercolor is I Know How You Feel. It's very short. Little brown leaf caught by the sun in mid-flutter. I too sometimes just want to curl in on myself and hope for a soft landing. So you can see, again, very simple to me, try to capture the essence of this little leaf. Now, to take it a little deeper, get a little more complicated, we'll go to an artist, a famous artist, Amedeo Modigliani. Many of you may know him. He created these most amazing portraits. In many of them, the faces and the bodies are kind of elongated. And this one was called, or is called, Ameza. But when I studied this woman, and I'm going to try to see if I can bring her over and make her, oh, I'd like to make her a little larger, but it's hard to make her large and still get her whole body in the picture. So I'm gonna try to probably make her large, but then I will move her body up as we go, kind of, or I'll sort of move her body and show you, because she became the woman with the wrist tattoo. So, and there's her wrist tattoo. And here's the poem, although the poem is more in the nature of a prose poem or a story. And it's a little longer. The woman across the room seems upset, trying not to look at anyone as she focuses on the door, eyes two shining coals, rimmed with sorrow. She lights a cigarette, but lets the fire burn down until the ash is almost at her hand, her lipstick slightly smeared on pillowed lips. Swallowing, she pulls herself upright. She assumes an iron face and greets the man who's just entered. Hello, Claude. She puts out the cigarette. Don't look so surprised. This is Claude's favorite club, not a place she is expected. Do you think I don't know that you're not here when you tell me you're going for a cigar and brandy with Maurice? Do you think I don't smell the stink of attar and ashes from your dalliance with the Vincent Octar girl? Well, I've had enough. I used your long absence to get this reminder of you. She extends her arm. The snake who slithered up my sleeve and into my heart, the serpent who stole my fortune and dignity. When people ask about this tattoo at my wrist, I'll just tell them, oh, that's Claude, a snake I once knew. But really, it's just a reminder that if you ever again try to take my hand, I should pull it back to avoid the sting.
Robin, one of the participants says that she can't see the whole screen. I can, so I'm not sure what the problem is, but you may want to reduce that a bit. I don't know.
Okay.
It's probably the device that the woman is on. So if she's on a smaller screen, it's going to adjust for that. So I would say you're good at that size. That looks good. Roger, and I think it might be under participant to change the sound of people entering and exiting.
Okay, and please, Judy and Roger, please let me know if there's anything in the comments, because I'm not able to look at the chat when I'm doing the PowerPoint. So let me know if there's anything else that comes up that needs my attention.
You're good so far. People have just been commenting on things that they have been inspired by, whether it was music or something else. And there were several people who put in that there was music that they wrote to. And in fact, I started listening to the classical station recently, and several classical pieces are inspired by other classical pieces. So this is not new business.
Cool. Okay. So that is the woman with the wrist tattoo. And I want to go on to this is in the nature of a photograph, but I'm actually not sure if it's a photograph or a drawing, and I've never been able to find out. It was given to me as a prompt in a writing workshop once, and I haven't been able to find out the origin of it.
It's a double exposure, I think, Robin.
Yeah, okay. So, but I haven't been able to find out who created it. But anyway, it was a great prompt for me. So, and I wrote this little poem called Crow Wisdom because when I first saw this, I thought this image at the top, on the top of the log, was a crow. It's not, but it just appeared that way to me at first glance. So that was the origin or the inspiration for this poem called Crow Wisdom. Crow, older than the felled tree where it sits each morning, ponders days when slender fish were plentiful, misses the old man who used to walk the log, can almost see his reflection if the lake is still and the clouds linger low. Old friends don't depart. They may stop by in the shadows. Now this is a famous picture. I'll see if I can maybe try to make it a little bigger, but this is a famous painting called The Glass of Wine by Johannes Vermeer. So if you look in this painting, there's a lot of interesting details going on. There's a lute here on the chair. Looks like there's there's a thing of wine. The woman has a wine glass in her hand. The man is, to my mind, sort of hovering over her. So it's kind of, I don't know. There's the interesting light in the picture that you usually have in Vermeer paintings. So, but the most interesting thing is to me was, why do you do a painting where you have the wine glass covering the woman's face? That seemed odd to me. So that's kind of what sparked my inspiration. It's like, why is that wine glass there? Why wasn't there a toast or something if he's painting a glass of wine? So my painting, I didn't do a lot of research on this because it was sort of inspired by just what I saw in the painting, but it's called The Suitor and the Maid. Second thoughts run round her linen cap. One cannot hide for very long behind an empty wine glass. Perhaps she can feign dizziness. She must not have another glass. One thing is clear. She cannot hold this glass over her face any longer without arousing his suspicion. He is too much aroused already. There is only one course. His hand grasps the jug, ready to pour, make his next smooth move. Her arm clasped at her waist like the shield she wishes it was. As she lowers the glass to the table, she gazes up into his eyes, letting the weight of the glass slide over the edge and onto the tile floor, where it and his libidinous intentions break into a dozen irreparable slivers and shards.
I just have to say, great.
It was kind of fun, huh? Okay, this is an example of a more modern painting, which I love. I love Matisse, and I love writing even to more abstract paintings than this, but I particularly like this Matisse work, which is called The Red Studio, because I just think it's really fun. And there's so many interesting objects in the painting that you can ping off of. So many things in the paintings in the painting that you could pick up on. So you know, and it's, let's see if I can make that any bigger. You know, you could pick any one of those pieces of art in the painting and write something about that. I mean, there's some interesting things going on there, but whoops, not over there. I sort of wrote about the whole scenario here. And so my poem is called His Red Studio, or Visiting His Red Studio. I want to go back tonight to that place awash with tomato soup dreams. My mind escaping its prison like a genie from a bottle. Vines of thought explore sculpture, wonder how we sit on ghostly furnishings. But they don't matter. The art demands our attention. All else unimportant vanishes. The red wrap camouflages our consciousness, does not distract from the essential. Although adrift, my mind starts to focus. I smile as the clock fades. The corner disappears. And this was actually, this piece of art I did quite a lot of research on. So, and it's really interesting. So there are also various versions of it too, but it just shows you that there's really no kind of art that you can't write to. But to go back to something a little more traditional, this is a lovely painting by an artist. She's from the Northeast. I think it's Maryland or New York, called Ruth Star Rose. And she did a lot of painting of African American. She was white, but she did a lot of painting of African American families and children back in the late 1920s and early 1930s. And she just some beautiful, beautiful paintings, like as you can tell from this one. And she just named this one after the family of the little boy, Mooney Boy on the Stairs. I just thought it was precious. And so I called it Beautiful Boy. And I just, the way I wrote it was sort of from well, it started from the point of view of the little boy, kind of, or talking about him anyway. No blue boy this. He sits still for the artist, but one leg is cocked, ready to take flight when he's released. He can't clench his fist, she said, but his right fingers tense a little. He'd rather be flying a kite or playing marbles. She tried to make him comfortable, put a cushion on the stair where he sits. No frown worn, just a look of stern resignation. He remembers she promised him a nickel for candy if he sits real still. Meanwhile, she knows the light is fading. She hasn't long to capture the dulcet tones of his beautiful skin. Next, I just wanted to give you an example of writing to sculpture, because sculpture is a little bit different. Well, you might think it's a little different, but there's a long tradition of it. Even Keats' Ode to the Grecian Urn is like one of the first pieces of the craft.
Robin, I'm getting a little funny audio feedback.
Oh, sorry. That's probably me rattling my papers here. Sorry, I just wanted to say that Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn, which is writing to sculpture in a way, although it's more like ceramic. But still, it's one of the first pieces of ekphrastic sculpture or ekphrastic writing.
Robin, Judy has her hand up. Just
Okay, what is it, Judy?
Yeah, if I unmute myself. Rebecca was asking about copyright issues, and I think I know the answer to this. You're not copying somebody's stuff. So there isn't, you're not, if you were copying their style in the same medium, then there might be copyright issues. But ekphrastic, it's inspired by, and you're not stealing their stuff. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, Judy.
Yeah, and much of this, especially the very older work, is in the public domain. And also the more recent work from recent artists, like that I showed you, that live, friends and so forth, in the Napa and Sonoma counties, I specifically got written permission from them to use their work. So if it's very recent artists who are still living, I try to get I do before I actually use it, like in a book or something that I would be using commercially. I would get their permission to do that. But something like
Well,
this,
are you showing the image of what inspired you? It depends to me. If you're showing the art piece that inspired the work that you're doing, then yes, you would need to get permission. If you're not showing what inspired you, then you wouldn't need to.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let's go on, Robin.
Thanks.
Because you got a little bit over 15 minutes and you got 6 slides left.
okay. All right. This is okay, this is a very, one might say, plain sculpture. And the sculpture is called Falling Water. The poem I wrote is called Even Sea Serpents. You wash over me like falling water, cleansing, massaging, cooling me when I run hot, warming me when I run cold, when I am cold or lonely. You smooth my scales, nip away at the rough edges. My claws still need trimming, but I've used them for so long, my protection. Their surrender comes less easily. I've caused a few scars in return for wounds rendered, but only the deep ones, and never just for insults. But still, I long for a sure and kind hand, an occasional back rub. Not many know sea serpents like that. Okay. I could go on and on about this one, but I'm trying to decide what I want to include and what I want to skip. I won't go on and on about it, but this is an amazing artist named Charlotte Solomon, who was an artist born out of the Holocaust. She was a Jewish artist that fled Germany, lived in France. I did an amazing amount of research in coming up with this poem. And boy, it's you'd need to know a little bit about her history to really understand the poem, probably, but let's see what you think, if you think you can, what you think of the poem just from looking at the art. Reckoning, based on Charlotte Solomon's Dreaming of a Life in Heaven. Mother, you lie in your red quilted bed, love in your eyes as you look at me, hug me. As I leave, I do not notice your weak caress, the hovering angels that wait outside to tally your sins, count your acts of kindness, stand at their prism window like tellers at a bank or ticket takers at the bus depot. That came to me later in a dream. I was not there when your soul rose to heaven in slices, your life parsed into slivers rising. I wanted to rejoice. A crowd awaited your arrival. Did some whisper reproachful? But there you stood. I gave a sigh of relief. Then suddenly I woke, soaked in a cold sweat, recalling God, perched at the entrance, was not smiling and had one hand concealed behind his back. Okay, I think I'm going to skip this next one. If we have time, I'll come back to it. But I will go then to this one, which is an Adelita painting by Jose Martinez, a local artist. And the poem is called Adelita Dreams. If you don't know what an Adelita is, that's something that I would encourage you to look up. But it did inform the poem. And he did a whole series of these, which are very inspirational. Young girl draped with a belt of bullets, also embraced by a strand of pearls, perhaps from a loving father. Close your eyes and think of simpler days. When your problem was boys pulling your long chocolate-covered braids or stealing your sombrero. Think of your dreams, just starting to reflect in heavy eyelids, rumble deep in your soul and your stomach, making you want to smile and lick your lips. The stars sprinkle the sky like sugar. If only you could be stirred into the dark coffee night and disappear.
Robin, we had a question, and a good one, I think. You're showing us the image and then the poem, but are there occasions where you read the poem and then show the image? Or do you always sort of put the image first?
I usually put the image first, but I can kind of turn the tables if you like and read the poem and then show you the image.
I think that was just a question of general process for you. That's all.
Well, I mean, obviously I write to an image.
Yeah.
It's the art that inspires the writing. So that's why I'm showing you that. I mean, I did another presentation not long ago where I had both the poem and the picture up, but then I thought that was too distracting, because I thought I'd like for people to focus on the art itself and then just listen, use the two different senses, look at the painting, but listen to the poem. So, and take it in both ways. So, okay, I'm going to, I actually think I'm going to skip one more. And I want to do a landscape for you, and then I'll take questions. Because I do want to leave some time for questions. So this is a painting by a very famous landscape painter, American landscape painter from the 1800s, named Frederick Edwin Church, and the painting and the poem are both called Twilight in the Wilderness. And I fell in love with it. So I think you can see why. And Twilight in the wilderness. What made the sky so angry? It bellows fiery clouds above our heads, makes our blue-green river run orange. We had not yet sullied the waters then, had we? Had not yet cut down the trees? Where are the birds? All ready to roost? Do the sailors delight as foretold? Or do they cross themselves, falling to their knees on the deck planks of splintered wood, awed by such a sky, awed and afraid, as those with guilt in their hearts see signs of foreboding in the unexpected, in the beautiful terror of roiling red coals across a teal and saffron sky? Is that why I see such madness when the artist beheld only a beautiful sunset? Okay, so I am going to stop share then and come back for some questions. That was sort of a whirlwind tour, guys.
That was excellent, Robin. I'm sure everyone feels that way. I'm going to ask you to stay muted, but put your electronic hands up. So Rebecca has a question. You want to unmute and ask that question, Rebecca Jones?
Oh, I thought that was an applause.
Oh, it is, by the way. It is. It's both. Yeah, right.
All right.
How about someone with a question?
There's several in the chat too. And we got a response on one, the idea being, is there a name for the process when it goes the other way, when a piece of visual art created in response to poetry or prose, I'm sorry. And I didn't know this other word, ekphrastic, making art from writing.
And as you probably know, or many of you know, Sebastopol Center for the Art has done it both ways and is currently in the process of coming out with a new exhibition in June, Reverberations 3, which will have their latest batch of poetry to art, but they have done it the other way around, where they've had artists create art to poetry.
We'll have to consider that as Redwood's coming out with its soon. It's going to call for poetry for our next anthology, but for CWC, I know that Les, our editor for this book, certainly wants to continue this process and hopes that the club will do another book next year or whatever makes sense. But that idea that you just suggested, Robin and Judy, the idea that we would have people submit poetry and then give artists, 3 months to create art related to the poetry or prose would certainly be another really interesting book to create, in my opinion. How about hands for questions? Anybody? I don't see everybody, so.
Oh, let me stick them on gallery. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'm on gallery too, but I don't.
Bob has his hand up. Bob, unmute yourself.
Bob who? It's Bill? No.
Steve, I'm sorry, Bob Stevens. I'm sorry. I'm looking in the upper corner.
Yeah, Bob Stevens. You have a question?
Yeah, I've been talking about this concept for over 5 years, where you pair a writer and an artist, primarily a painter, and you have them work off each other, and you have a curated show. And you can have a judge for the painting, you can have a judge for the poetry, and you can have a judge for the unit. How well do they mesh? How well do they work together or work against each other?
Interesting.
So,
one of the things all over, of course, our county, and the larger state, but I have an affiliation with our local gallery. Pam Heck's in there somewhere on another page, I think. But the Cloverdale Arts Alliance, we have artists in there that do art and poetry right on their art. But that idea of a gallery or a studio or an artist individual, all those would be exciting ideas. And across the club, since we're from all the branches. If an idea like this excites you, start talking to your board about it. How about questions for Robin? You can unmute and just ask a question because I can't see everybody.
I'm not seeing any other hands up, but I was just going to say, and Robin and I and Marianne Lyons is a dual member of Napa and Redwood, but she is the past poet laureate of Napa. And many, many times she called for, oh, here, we're going to do something at this winery. Here's the art, write something. And there's so many people in our club and in their club who are multimedia artists.
You
So
know
I
what?
love that idea.
Well, you know what could be interesting is an art poetry slam. You know, that could be kind of a cool idea, I think.
It would be.
Robin, how long does it take you to do one of these? Find the piece of art that you are inspired by and then work on a writing for it.
You know, it can really vary. As I said, if I'm doing research into the painting, the art piece, and the artist, it can sometimes take a number of hours, a couple days just to do that. And then the process, of course, is like creating any kind of poetry. You know, you can write it maybe in an hour or two or 5 days or something, and then you let it sit and then you edit it, and it's always a process. I can't really estimate how long it would take, and it depends on the length of the piece. And you know, some of those little short ones, they were one-offs. You know, I sort of wrote them in 5 minutes, but then tweaked them afterwards. But so there's no standard that you do, but it's like I did want to say that one of the great things about ekphrastic writing is that the inspiration is so accessible, not only in your museums, but also online, because most galleries now have online presences. And there's also Wiki Art and Google Arts and something that you can get access to wonderful art from all over the world just by Googling it. If you like a particular style of art, if you like Modigliani or you like Matisse or whoever, you can find their art everywhere. And
Robin, we have 3 questions that are sitting up in the hopper up here. So how about Karen Fitzgerald first, and then we'll go to Letitia and Jamie. Karen?
Thank you. Robin, I was curious, do you seek out your inspiration, or in your creative process, are you sitting there thinking, I'd like to do some ekphrastic. I think I'll go look for something. How does the process work?
Occasionally I will seek something out, but usually it comes to me because I take a lot of classes, and I will get something, an inspiration in a class I'm taking, ekphrastic inspiration, or because I like a particular artist, I'll look something up, or you know, once I find an artist I like, I might write to 2 or 3 of their different pieces.
Thank you.
How about Letitia?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to share. I've been involved with ekphrastic art for several years, and this summer, fall, I just got involved with an art gallery that had a whole exhibit called Summation, and there must have been 100 poems written for the artwork in the gallery for Summation, and they've been doing it for 15 years, and so we had the most amazing readings where they showed the picture on the big TV screen or the artwork, and then the poet read their poetry. It was just rather fascinating, fun, and I'm gonna do it again next year.
And where is it, Letitia?
Oh, in Escondido, California, and it's the Escondido Arts Partnership, and they have a presence on Instagram. You know, Oh, and I think on Facebook and whatnot too. So it was just such a lively event. And we did it 3 different times. The picture with the artwork, and the poem, to give everyone a chance, because it was from all over San Diego County and elsewhere. And I'm a recent transplant to this area, and I'm from the Bay Area. And up in Hayward Arts Council, they're doing a similar type of exhibit, and that's where my poem is, an Ekphrastic poem being hung in the Hayward Main Library with a similar themed event.
That's good. How about we had Jamie? Did you take your hand down, or do you still have a question? And then I'll come to
I had
Amber.
to sign off at this time, but thank you so much for the program.
How about Amber? Do you have a question? Dan, you're muted.
Okay. This isn't my question. This is one I find in the chat, but it was so good I wanted to make sure it get answers. Rebecca Jones says here, she wrote at 4:38, are there any copyright issues when using others' art or music or work if a writer publishes the ekphrastic inspired words?
There would be with music. The art, we already talked about that fact that if you're writing about art but showing the piece of art, you would have to be sure that you have permission to have that art in the publication, let's say. If you're not showing the art, there is no copyright issue. You own everything you write. But the thing about titles and songs, you cannot write the lyrics of a song. If its owner hasn't protected, they'll sue you. And that's the funniest thing, where we can steal everything in movies. It doesn't seem to matter, but song lyrics can be iffy. So you do have to be careful if you are. Because I wrote a story from a woman's song, and then I had to take it back, because even though I think she would have given me permission, I hadn't done it that way. If that makes sense to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
lyrics
little bit
are more
after,
protected than anything else.
yeah, it's a little bit after 3. I'd like to make sure before we thank Robin again, and if you're going to go watch the game or whatever, but are there questions about the book process now that Robin's helps us think about how to write prose or poetry to images? But are there questions about what you're supposed to do if you want to submit or anything like that?
I have a question.
I was just going to say, Roger, you might want to recap the process of selecting and doing that.
Sure. So as you know, we opened a submission for an art contest. We chose from the 260 pieces, we chose 15 that will go in the book, and they are on the website right now, both in the contest menu page and on the book page, the publication page. So you can see the images. Congrats to, I see a number of artists, Edward and Brian and so on. I don't see Therese maybe there, but congratulations to all of you. If you're here in this event, wonderful art. I'm planning to buy some if it's available. But the fact is that those artists, not only the first 3 are called our primary winners, they will receive a cash prize. All of the 15 will be published in the book, and they get a free copy of the coffee table book when it is published, which will be a high-end book, I believe. And then now we have opened it up with those images. We've opened it up to submitting really only through the first week of March. Les wants a fairly narrow window. She's like that. But Les Bernstein, our editor, and a couple judges will judge poetry and prose submitted. Now you can submit 3 pieces, and that's 3 poems, just poems, 3 prose, just prose, or a combination, but up to 3. But they have to all be submitted in the same submission, or you'll pay again. That's just the way it was set up. So what you're doing is you're going to submit 3 distinct files, Word documents. So Word 1, Word 2, and Word 3. And it has to have the title of the art and the number that's posted on our website. So it would say number 1, welcome. You could include the author's name, but your name should not appear in the poem or on the file, because those files will be sent to the judges and they're anonymous. They wouldn't be to Les, the editor, but they would be to the other judges. So, and then after March 7th, I believe, we'll take probably a couple of weeks, but this pretty quick with her, and we will get pieces that are accepted. They may go through a small editing process, but we expect, very little editing ever in this kind of work. The prose is 300 words or less, and you will be informed whether you're accepted or not accepted for the book. And then we'll go through a publication process and then sell the book. It's not free. It will be sold, and we're considering selling it as 2 versions: a hardback, a more expensive coffee table type book, a lovely gift, but also perhaps a like Amazon, maybe still color, but a paper book that would be less expensive for all our members to buy, and then it would be sold to the members through Amazon or our printing. Any questions beyond that?
Roger, I have a question.
Yeah. Who's asking?
This is T. Swackhammer.
Oh yeah.
Hi. So if you have a piece of art in the book, are you still permitted to submit work of writing?
Oh, yeah. Actually, we have not. We didn't preclude that. So because it's anonymous, I think that's fair. I will tell you, because I've complained about this all the time. Les wouldn't let me submit any art because she said, I'm going to know it's from you. And now that I see what was chosen, I don't think I would have been chosen anyway. But I think that's perfectly reasonable because we didn't exclude it. And usually we don't exclude it if the person's not on the board that's choosing or whatever. So I'd consider it open.
Okay, thank you.
This is
Anything else?
Kimberly. Yes,
Yeah.
I have a question. Kimberly here. I'm new to all of this. So my question is, once the book has been sold or presented, do the people who contributed to it, do they get royalties from that?
No, we never provide royalties in any of our publications. You are giving up that right.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, it's stated, but I have had recently someone, probably a lawyer, suggest that we become a little more lawyerly about our publication declarations. But no, there's no royalty involved in our club's books.
All right, thank you.
That would be illegal, by the way, as a nonprofit. That would be part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'm sorry, this is Cheese again, Roger. But the rights revert back. It's just first time rights, correct?
Right, it's just the first time right. You can submit it elsewhere. You can do anything you want with it. It's yours.
Yeah.
But we're just asking for first publication right. And in fact, in one case, we probably do not qualify. And so we're just going to accept that piece will be acknowledged as having a prior publication. It'll be just a question of timing. So we're okay with that. We do want original work though in all of our publications because it's easier to deal with, frankly. Anything else?
Yeah, I found the contest rules or description online, but I could not find the actual art.
It's above the rules in.
No, it's not.
Well, it is. I just looked at it. I've got it right here. Well, let me share.
Would you please put the link in the chat, because it's not showing where I think it should be showing either. And I don't see it on our website at all.
Yeah, it's right in the page.
would you please put the link that
Oh,
you're
yeah,
looking
I'm
at
doing it, Judy.
in there? Okay, honey, I'm sorry. Because it
I
wasn't showing where we were
I gotta
looking.
get out
Yeah.
of my iTunes here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know why it's doing this. Let me stop sharing for a second. I'm
Okay,
gonna call it up.
okay. Thank you, sweetie.
Oh,
There it is. Publications. Then there's the instructions. And then there's the form.
Hold on.
This page looks different from the one that I found.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
there's-
you know what?
Link
This
on
is
it.
this is confusing because it shows the submission page is closed. And I don't think people are going to know if they don't know to go to the publications page. So there should be a link.
Judy,
Yes, dear.
they've all individually gotten a direct letter explaining this.
Roger, I'm just letting you know from the standpoint of people who may not read everything, not just me, but other people, that there should be a link on the other page to this page.
Yeah, we can do that.
Seriously. And there isn't.
Well, we can
So
do
I'm
that.
just saying, make it easier for people to find it.
So
Thank
there
you.
it is. For whoever, you were just on the wrong page. So the contest is over. This is the publication page. And this is, as you may know or realize, this is right now in lieu of the older way in which we did a lit review. It's a different kind of literature process, if you will. But there's that page.
Okay, I found the correct page now that you're on, and I put that link in the chat for anyone else who wants it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
those were all on the email I sent everybody, by the way, but
I
it's okay.
understand
It's
that,
okay.
Roger.
It's okay.
I do understand that. I'm just saying, let's make it simple for people, and it would only take one line to do that.
Well, actually, I thought when you clicked on it, it sent you there.
It
that
does
was what it-
not. That's all I'm trying to let you know. Okay.
Well, look at the bottom line here.
Thanks, Roger. I'm going to sign off. Thanks very much, Robin. Take care, y'all.
Thanks, Judy. Okay, anything else, guys?
yes. Can an artist who is selected in the art phase able to write about the piece that they submitted?
No.
Okay.
No.
I needed to know that.
Yeah, no, because it won't be visible in the book. No, that's a good question, Bob, and no.
Okay. Well, I have to
Yeah.
choose another picture then.
Although people will go, I don't get it. I like the poem, but I don't get what its reference is.
I have a comment. I put it in the chat, but there's a literary journal called Rattle, and they have a monthly ekphrastic poetry contest, which one can enter. But maybe the most interesting thing is that they have an archive of past winners, and you can see lots and lots of examples of ekphrastic poetry there. And Rattle's a pretty high class journal. That would be my life's dream, to be published in there, but I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I thank you very much for that comment. I think one of the things we all want to really emphasize here is that this is an attempt to make a club book not be a private club book, to make this be a very public commercial book. And I encourage all of you as authors to spend as much time as you can looking at the images you love. Mine's probably going to be that little girl with the yellow hair. But I want you to really take to heart how wonderful this art is. And let's make the poetry and prose sing. And then I think that's enough from me. If you have questions now about the book process, you can contact me or Les Bernstein, and those are on the website. But let's all give a big hand to Robin physically, and I'll unmute. I got to unmute everybody. It was a wonderful event, Robin, and thank you very much.